The Dallas Stars return from Christmas break to take on the St. Louis Blues tonight. We'll preview them and play Shooting Star, a 10-game stretch in which I think the Stars can do some damage, and I'll tell you why. Plus, as if there was any other choice, Mavrik Bourque was your AHL Player of the Week. That and more next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer, 105 Through the Fan, and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The NHL returns to action tonight after being idle over the Christmas break, and the Stars will take on the St. Louis Blues, trying to exact some revenge after their overtime loss not too long ago. We'll preview the Blues and play Shooting Star. Put your comments below and choose your star for tonight's contest. Mavrik Bourque was your AHL Player of the Week. I'm going to give you some details on that. Newsflash, not very much of a competition for good reason. But first, I want to begin with this next 10-game stretch for the Stars and why I think they can do a ton of damage. A lot of positive vibes coming your way here and heading in to the new year. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So I was scrolling and observing the next 10 games for the Dallas Stars. And let me tell you, this stretch got me a bit giddy. I'll have to be completely honest. A lot of positive numbers and positive vibes coming your way here. And we'll start with this. 6 out of the next 10 are against teams that are not currently in the playoff conversation. 7 out of the next 10 are inside the confines of the American Airlines Center, and 9 out of the next 10 are against Central Division opponents. The Stars come out of Christmas break in first place, tied for first in the Central Division with 44 points with the Colorado Avalanche. They do have 2 games on hand against Colorado. And the Central Division has been a bit of a breeze so far for the Dallas Stars, and albeit the division is not as strong as it used to be, but they've taken care of business. 6-1-1 against the Central Division this season, and their one loss in regulation was against Colorado when they had a 3-0 lead, and they pretty much blew it in the second half of that hockey game. So the Central Division has been a mopping ground so far for the Dallas Stars, and 9 out of their next 10 are against Central Division opponents. A chance here to extend or hopefully lengthen a gap now between you and Colorado. Maybe it's Winnipeg, who's ever going to be the challenger, and solidify yourself as first place in the Central Division. They're becoming a bit more consistent. They've been tightened up defensively. These are all great things happening over this last week or so that we can feel really good about heading into this next 10-game stretch. And as I mentioned, 6 out of the next 10 are against teams that are not in the playoff conversation. St. Louis is who you take on tonight. Nashville a couple of times, who's on the outside looking in, just a point out of a wild card spot. But you have a rebuilding Chicago team that's pretty much atrocious. You get them 3 times here, including Christmas Eve. And then at the end of this stretch, in a Minnesota team that you've been very, very good against, and they've been playing well, of course. They've won now 3 straight heading into the Christmas break since they fired Dean Evason, and they've been playing really good hockey here in the month of December. So it's not going to be easy by any stretch, but the Stars can make some hay here in this next 10 games. And, it's well documented how great the Stars have been on the road. They've been one of the best road teams last season, and they got off to their best start in franchise history on the road during this year. But with 4 straight home wins, they've now pulled themselves to pretty much an equal record between their home and road splits. 10-5-1 at home. They're 10-3-3 away from the American Airlines Center. And as I just mentioned, they've won 4 straight, and they get 7 out of their next 10 at home against some teams that are not very good. And this is a chance to get some guys back on the rails. And one I really, really want to key in on, and we haven't been able to really dive into it because the Stars have been winning and doing a good job even without his production, is Wyatt Johnston. Boy, they need to get him going. He hasn't scored yet in the month. 20 points in his first 32 games of the season. In the last 5 games, he just has 2 assists, and he's goalless here in the month of December. We all talk about, and I've touched on, he got off to a roaring start, already 9 goals on the season, and he needs to get that one. And I think they're just going to come in bunches once again because he's so talented. And the reason it's so important for Wyatt Johnston to get back on the gallop is because he's the driver of his line. When he's going, the Ben and Dadonov line is much better. Ben has not had quite the scoring touch in terms of the goal scoring department this season. Dadonov has been a little inconsistent this season, even though he has looked very, very good as of late. The last time Pete DeBoer scratched him, I think woke him up, give him a bit of a wake-up call, and he's been really good since returning to the lineup. But we all know Wyatt Johnston is the driver of that line. He creates time and space for himself. He's one of the few guys on the Stars that can create scoring chances by himself. And he gets so many good looks. He should be back in the goal column here recently. He's had a couple of really, really great chances. And the positive and good news about it, the silver lining, is he's getting to those areas. He finds himself in the slot, getting some of those grade A looks. They just haven't been able to find Twine recently. So far at home this season, in the first 16 games, Stars have played a very even schedule. 13 points in 16 games at home, 5 goals and 8 assists. So a real chance for Wyatt Johnston to get back on track here with 7 out of the next 10 games at home. Plus, they're playing teams that have not played very good away from their own building. And look, some of the teams are not very good. Chicago's rebuilding. They're 4-13. On the road. Minnesota's 6-9-2. St. Louis is 7-10, even though the Stars are taking them on tonight in St. Louis. But Nashville's just 1 game over 500, so you got a bit of a challenge there. And then Montreal's the lone Eastern Conference team that's actually been very good on the road. They're 8-4-3. They've been really, really bad at home, but it's another team that's pretty far away from the playoff conversation in the Eastern Conference. Man, this is a chance now for Dallas to take a stranglehold in first place here heading into the new year and kind of bully to some degree. Buck up and prove that you're a real contender in the National Hockey League, a Stanley Cup contender. And I think I think they are, not to quite the level of a Vegas right now, or even maybe a Vancouver, even though I think they match up really, really well against Vancouver. They certainly need some help, and this isn't here to say they don't, because they need to address their defensive issues, because they will rear its ugly head when it matters most. And if you watch my Christmas wish list episode, you know the Stars need 1, probably 2 right-handed defensemen, especially with Niels Lundqvist basically being a healthy scratch now every day. Every game, he's a healthy scratch. They don't trust him, and he's not playing. So you need a solution, and they will certainly have to look elsewhere for that solution. But, man, this next 10 games, the Stars can make some hay against some hockey clubs that are really finding themselves. We're getting to this stretch where you kind of see who the real teams are and who's maybe pretending up at this point, because once you hit that 40-game mark and you move on, then you're kind of weeding out the boys from men, so to speak. Who's going to be selling at the deadline? Who's going to be buying? The Stars will certainly be buying, but out of the Christmas break, you have to feel really good about where the Stars are. They've won 4 straight at home. They picked up a hard-fought win in regulation, the first team to ever score a go-ahead in a game-tying and go-ahead goal in the final 15 seconds of regulation, with 44 points, a couple of games in hand. A chance to really, really make a statement here. They're now plus 14 in goal differential, which ranks 3rd in the Central Division. Colorado and Winnipeg's ahead of them, but they're even now between home and away, which is some great news, because the Stars, at least last year, weren't a great team at home, and it trickled into this season for a bit, but 4 wins in a few weeks can make the difference. And they've played some really good teams. And I think they've gotten some wins against quality teams, which is an even better sign. So 7 out of the next 10 at home, 9 of 10 in the division. And you know how much you can make a statement by beating these teams within the Central Division. You can almost win the division here in January. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. If you pick up 7 wins, 6 to 7 wins against this division, man, you can provide yourself a bit of a lengthy gap. And of course, you're not taking on Colorado or Winnipeg, which is unfortunate, but the Stars are 6-1-1 against the Central, and it's probably one of the weaker divisions in the NHL. To be completely honest, it does not have the teeth like it used to, because there are some teams rebuilding and figuring out who they are. St. Louis is still a fringe playoff team, in my opinion. Nashville is very similar to that degree, even though they do hold a wild card spot currently. So I think there's a lot of positives heading into the new year for the Dallas Stars. Plus, you got Connor Bedard coming to town for New Year's Eve. How about that little treat for you Stars fan? It's been a great holiday season. I hope all you Stars fans out there had a really, really awesome Christmas. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Got everything you could have wanted, and appreciate you guys for sticking around with me as well. All you everydayers taking in my content on an everyday basis here on Locked On Stars, because that's what it's here for, man. Your team every single day, and the Stars are on a good run, trying to build some momentum heading into the new year and their first place. Man, it's so sweet to say those words. Yeah, they may be tied, but let's be honest. They got 2 games in hand, so they're in first place. They don't hold the tiebreaker, I guess, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and touch on one of those Central Division teams, though, in just a minute. The preview of the St. Louis Blues coming up next, and my shooting star pick. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offer stays hot on FanDuel. The Dallas Cowboys may have not been so hot these final weeks or these past 2 weeks, but new customers do get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And it doesn't just have to be the NFL. You can play college football. You can play NHL. You can also play daily fantasy on the NBA. Pretty much pick who's ever playing the Pistons. They set a franchise record, or not even a franchise record, an NBA record of 27 straight losses. And do that with the NFL. Pick against some of the worst teams in the NFL. Make you some money. Or if you're watching the Cowboys game, prop up those feet, enjoy a Cowboys game, and make some money. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, a official partner of the NFL. Before we hop into a preview of the St. Louis Blues, I want to let you know about the 24/7 streaming channel that is provided to you by Locked On Sports. Locked On Sports has a 24/7 streaming channel with all the top sports stories across all the sports leagues, with all those experts, plus the national shows covering every league, as I mentioned. So go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, doing great work over there with Locked On. All righty. So the St. Louis Blues will be at home tonight, and they've had a good season so far. They're 6th in the NHL Central Division, of course. I said the NHL in the Central Division, but coming off a 7-5 win over Chicago. And this is a team that I think just provides a bit of a matchup nightmare to the same degree. Calgary hasn't been a good team this season, but they won 2 out of 3 against the Stars, and the Blues have played them really tight on opening night. They went to overtime. Both matchups have gone past 60 minutes. And of course, they just fired Craig Berube, and they've had a little bit of life since that firing. Robert Thomas is having such a good season, 37 points in 33 games. Jordan Kyrou, of course, who had a big night against the Stars a few weeks ago, he's up to 9 goals and 16 assists. And what I mean by this being a really tough matchup is there's a lot of big, heavy forwards up front, and their forechecking game became a problem for the Stars. And we've seen this now as a bit of a theme here in this early season, that the Stars struggle against teams that are heavy forechecking sides. The Blues kind of want to get it in deep and play that cycle game and hammer your D-men, tire you out as the game goes along. They muck up the middle. They do not give much up interior. And it's kind of been a blueprint to beat the Stars this year where, hey, have fun, knock yourself out on the perimeter. Good luck getting interior because we're going to block it down and block shots. Plus, we have a very good netminder behind us that can clean up some of our mistakes. And Jordan Binnington has certainly been good this season, and he's been very good against the Stars in his career. The win-loss record isn't nothing to jump up and down about at 4-5-2 in 11 games, but a 2.29 goals against average and a save percentage of .917. He's having a good season, even though the Stars were able to get to him a bit last time out. But I think this is just a great veteran squad. I really like the way St. Louis plays. It just seems like they're always a part of the conversation. Kevin Hayes is another guy that's been a great pickup for them, and they got great veteran presence like Braden Shin, and Brandon Sott. And I love their back end with Parayko that kind of delivers that heavy bomb from out top. Perunovic is great, and Scandella. They just have a lot of good up-and-coming D-men and some veteran presence. So the Stars are always going to have their hands full against St. Louis, and these games have been very, very good between the two teams. And I think it's a very great test for the Stars on the road, coming out of Christmas break. You've won 3 straight now. Can you focus up here against St. Louis? Plus, with this nice 10-game stretch where, look, as much as you don't want to say it, and the guys in the locker room say, yeah, we're focusing on one at a time, you have to believe they're kind of thinking near future, like, man, we have a nice, comfortable stretch here. We're going to be at home for most of these. We'll be able to cakewalk through these. Can they really focus up and beat some of these teams? And as I mentioned, have a bit of a bully stance. Like, hey, like we're gonna push you around. We're gonna be the best team here on every night. And they're starting to find a bit more consistency in that approach. And they've been better at tightening up defensively. As I mentioned, they're just defending as a 5-man unit. Scoring has not been an issue, even though it can dry up every once in a while, but they're averaging 3.5 goals per game, just a couple of ticks better than last season. And they're getting production from everywhere. As I mentioned, the offense hasn't been a big issue. They found a personnel group that they like. I think they're managing the minutes of some of their defensemen better, like more minutes for Thomas Harley, playing him with Miro, allowing 4 and 55 to play with whoever you want on the back end. You're going to be fine. You also cannot overstate how great Yanni Hakanpää and Esa Lindell have been on the penalty kill. Stars have one of the best PKs in the National Hockey League. It ranks top 5. And I mean, the majority of the minutes are Lindell and Hakanpää. They're essentially the one pairing that gets all of the PK time. You don't see that around the National Hockey League too often. And Lindell and Hakanpää are certainly getting like 95% of those minutes, and they deserve it. They've been really shut down. I think that pairing's actually been very good. Hasn't been as bad as we saw last season. They've had their moments, absolutely, and it hasn't been pretty at all times, but credit where credit is due. They've been pretty good in the PK department, and they have a lot to do with that success. So can the Stars match up to the Blues' physicality? Because that's a team that wants to really kind of hammer you and wear on you throughout the night. I think they just play with that kind of grit. And we touched on it. Do the Stars want to match up to that? Do they have that identity to play that type of style of game? They don't necessarily have the best personnel to do it, but they need to be a bit more engaging in that department to have success as the game goes along. And I think we saw that against Nashville. Look, erasing a 2-goal lead with 20 minutes to play is very hard. And they had to get some grimy, greasy goals. And sometimes there's nothing better than some of those puck luck bounces that come your way, and you're able to cash in. And the Stars did that a few times against Nashville just before the break. So that leads me into my shooting star pick. Be sure to get your shooting star picks down in the comment section below. Love reading those. Who's going to have a big night? I'm going with Jason Robertson. 31 points on the season. That is tied for the most in on the team, I should say. I'm going with Robertson, a big 2-goal night. It's been a while since he's had a multi-goal night. He's starting to find his rhythm, which is a great sign for the top line as well. 5 points in his last 5 games. It's time for Jason Robertson to have a big game against St. Louis. Get in the head of Jordan Binnington. Get him going crazy. We've seen Binnington have some outbursts. I would love Robo to have a big night. Get him a pair of goals, maybe a 3-point night, lead the charge, and the Stars hopefully will come out victorious over the St. Louis Blues tonight and win a very important season series. So that is my shooting star pick for tonight as the Stars return to action out of Christmas break against the Blues. Okay, let's segue into Mavrik Bourque, your AHL Player of the Week. It was no competition, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is so obsessed with getting you tickets to whatever that event is. The NHL game, a Stars game, a Cowboys game, a Mavericks game, a comedy show, a theater, wherever you need to go and you need tickets for, go ahead and get the Game Time app, and you can get $20 off your first purchase by using the Locked On NHL code. They are obsessed with giving you peace of mind with your purchase. You've heard me talk about it so many times before. You can see the seat before you purchase, so you're not having to worry about a railing in your way, a pole of some sort. We've all bought a ticket to an unknown arena, and you get there like, I wouldn't have bought that if I saw it. So you can go ahead, see the seat before you buy those tickets within seconds as well with just 2 taps, last minute seats and last minute deals with zone deals. You can pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you can have an average of 18% savings, and you can save a little more money by downloading the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That is Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So some more news on the Texas Stars, and man, these two of Mavrik Bourque and Logan Stankoven make it almost impossible for me not to talk about them. It's almost a travesty, and I'm not going to use that word, but just stay with me here. A travesty that they're not in the NHL yet. But look, the Stars have cap situations and they have a lot of NHL ready for it. So I'm not coming after Jim Neal here, but if they were playing almost anywhere else, you would think they would probably be up in the National Hockey League by now. And you can't even say that because the cap situation is so hard for every team to maneuver. But anyways, we're going to discuss Mavrik Bourque, who was selected as the AHL Player of the Week for the period ending on Christmas Eve, December 24th. Bourque scored 5 goals in 2 games last week, and he helped the Stars enter the Christmas break with a pair of victories. And of course, he recorded the first 4-goal game in the AHL this season, and just the second in Stars franchise history in that 4-3 win over Grand Rapids, which included a game tire and the game winner in overtime with 39 seconds to go, or 39 seconds into overtime. And then in the rematch against Grand Rapids, he also picked up another goal in the 6-2 victory. He not only had a 5-goal week, he also leads the American Hockey League in scoring with 37 points, 13 goals, 24 assists in just 26 games this season. He's just 21 years old. Man, he's been so great. 20 goals and 47 points in a rookie a season ago. And now he has over 80 points here in his first 102 games with Texas. And of course, he was a first round selection in 2020 by the Dallas Stars at 30th overall. And look, that may be a steal. Even at 30, Stankoven may be a bit more of a steal in the second round. But those two have had such success. They're both 1 and 2 in the AHL in scoring. Stankoven's right behind Bourque, 35 points. He assisted on 3 of the 4 Bourque goals in the 4-goal game for Bourque. So those two guys are just peas in a pod, just destroying the entire AHL. And maybe in a few months here, we can see them up with Dallas, because each team will get some cap room as it kind of expands a bit, and we'll see what the Stars want to do. But it's just great to see these two guys lighting it up, man, and it makes you feel so good about the future. Bourque and Stankoven are going to fit right in. Playing with Johnston, imagine those 3 guys in their early 20s in the National Hockey League. Oh, man, the future is very bright for the Dallas Stars. And they're not only just like playing good hockey and collecting points and being productive, they're winning games. The Texas Stars are first in the Central Division. I think that's huge that their organization is winning. It's not like they're just dominating and they're not really playing meaningful games to some degree. They're winning hockey games, a part of a great club, and a chance to do some damage this season. So congrats to Mavrik Bourque, the AHL Player of the Week. No surprise there. So that is all I have for you today, Stars fans. So go ahead and wrap it up. Please be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you to all you everydayers out there and all you people that, all you Stars fans that make us your first listen. It really does mean the world. Be sure to comment. Let me know your takes, observations in the comment section below. I love engaging with you guys. Follow me on the Twitter thing at JoeyTheJet19. Follow Locked On Stars on Twitter as well. I'll be home tomorrow. I'm traveling this morning, so I'll be back home. I'm like home, but in Wisconsin, and I'll be taking in the Stars versus St. Louis tonight. So I'll have a reaction for you, of course, tomorrow, and a live reaction after. Be on the lookout for that. Also, I want to remind you guys once again, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, 24/7 covering the top sports stories with local experts, plus the national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports today and subscribe on YouTube for the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and hopefully we enjoy a Stars victory tonight. Have a wonderful day, and so long, Stars fans.